yeah, like 99% of the time I've been in co-ed tournaments, and I never saw it any other way because that was kind of just like what was around me, right? So I prefer it that way personally, but that's also because my experiences were positive ones when I entered the scene. So it didn't make going into co-ed tournaments feel intimidating or anything like that. I was there to learn, and I was gonna learn.
My guest today is a professional Tekken 7 player, a two-time ICFC champion, an EVO finalist, and a Red Bull gamer. Janelle Carter, more popularly known as Cuddle Core, is a boss. She's someone I've had on my radar for the last couple of years, and I am just so excited to see her continue to succeed in new ways. And as you'll hear from our conversation, she shines with confidence and an enthusiasm for hard work that I can't help but admire. We also talk about her passion for mental health and the role that it plays in her professional gaming career, and how she balances a demanding training and creator schedule. So without further ado, let's meet our move maker, Cuddle Core. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on today. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I actually just got back yesterday from Red Bull HQ in the Great Lakes region. So, feeling good, loving that, getting to meet a part of the team and learn a bit more about the history of Red Bull. So feeling good, feeling great, and glad that it's Friday.
Oh yeah, me too. And congratulations, because I know the Red Bull partnership is new. I mean, that's such a huge milestone. How are you feeling?
I feel great about it. It makes sense. I've done a lot of good work, not just in my competitive career, but also just being an influencer in my community, being a leader, and coach, and using my influence to affect my community in a very positive way. So I really think it was a very good milestone. It was like a necessary step, and at first it was a little shocking, but like I said, it makes sense. The more I think about it, it's appropriate that I would come to this next step. I wanted to get further, I want to kind of go outside of the fighting game community anyway. Esports presents a lot of good opportunities, not just for competition, but like in terms of financial stability, opportunities that help you become more versatile other than just being a player, but also helps you kind of see like the esports realm in like a wider lens, because it's not just like the small sub community of the fighting game community at all. So I really love that. And I love the professionalism of it, but like also the camaraderie that happens amongst these different communities within esports. I feel like I'm treated as a true professional within that space. And with being with Red Bull, it's like a nice little badge that shows like, I'm even more professional. Yeah. So yeah.
I am so this is going to sound silly because I know we just kind of met, but like, I'm so proud of you, and like listening to you say that so eloquently and so confidently. I mean, it further validates to me the partnership and the continued milestones throughout your career. Sorry, there's a fly in my face. If I get cross-eyed for a second there. But I think it's so inspiring and impactful for the people listening to hear you, kind of like celebrate this, because I know a lot of people, especially as women, we kind of like downplay our successes. So good for you. So proud. Cannot wait to see what you accomplish. I'm of course biased, and I'm really excited to see you as part of the Red Bull family. So I'm just really excited because I know that you're going to do incredible things there.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited. I feel like I'll just, continue on with my work in the good things, just doing them even more so with Red Bull. And it helps make it easier for me to do those things because I have access to even more resources. Yeah. So it takes a lot of the weight off of me. And kind of feeling like I can only do so much because, this is, what we have in terms of resources, X, Y, and Z, that's it. But it opens up so much more. So it helps me tap into my potential in so many other ways. And it helps me grow as an athlete, a player as well. So I'm really excited about that. And I've already been feeling the benefits of it. So.
Oh, incredible. No, I'm really excited for you. Well, why don't you start off by telling us, when did you first realize you had the potential to become a professional Tekken player? What was your first move into esports?
My first move into esports probably started when I first started competing, back when I was like still learning matchups in the game. But that was like 7 years ago, maybe even more. And I wanted to go to locals. So I started going to locals because I talked to a few people on like a Facebook like gaming group for Tekken for like Chicago. And I met them at like this venue and I played with them. They ended up being like some of my closest friends, but like at the same time, I became more aware of locals because of interacting with them and them introducing me to like the Tekken community in our area. So after that and like competing for a bit of time casually in tournaments and things like that, it was like 2018 and I got invited to compete on television for E-League. And that's I had never competed in a tournament on that scale. That was a massive scale. Like I was like, TV, what? Like, but Tekken 7 had released not too long ago in America at the time. It was like, yeah, it was 2018. But it'd been out for like a few months. And like this was huge for American Tekken because I think it helped make it popular. It got people hype about it because Tekken was kind of more like low key. Not a lot of people like it was a smaller community. The community really kept it alive, like, but it wasn't as popular as other fighting games. So with 7 and it being on TV and some of the best American players at the time, being shown there was very important. I was able to prove a lot. I beat some of the best players there. I was also the only female captain, but it proved a lot to me that I had taken it. I was always very serious about my hobby, but I was in school for something else completely. It was for illustration. But seeing that I could do it on that level, I think ignited like even a bigger fire in me. So that when I did fall into like, the profession of being a pro Tekken player, I knew I could do it because of that experience at E-League. And I think, yeah, that was the biggest thing that it proved a lot to me. I saw it firsthand. I was like, can I even do this on this level? I've never done this before. Like I'm kind of new to this kind of like, level of competition, but I could, because I had it in me. It came out. It came out because of adrenaline, because of, that fire you feel as you're playing, and kind of maybe the responsibility as a captain to kind of help out your team, because a few of my teammates had gotten eliminated versus this other team, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's time for me to come in now. I need to put myself in. And then I eliminated the other 4 players on the team. Because of it, they're 5. I eliminated the other 4, and people at the time didn't know who I was, like, to that extent. American players knew, but not everybody. Not a lot of people knew. Some did. So when they saw that, they're like, oh, who's this? And like, oh, that's cool, and then, the buzz around that started happening. And that's really what I think ignited a lot of that. It spurred me kind of forward, honestly.
I can only imagine what that moment probably felt like, of being, this is what you kind of described as like a hobby at the time, coming in at this like massive stage and then beating out some of the best players. Did that really kind of lead into like, do you feel like that was the defining moment of I am a professional Tekken player, or was it the next move or something further down the line that really kind of solidified that for you? When did that shift from hobby to pro happen for you?
When I realized this career, was actually going to be my career, and it wasn't just a hobby, it was hobby to pro, I think was when I got signed to Equinox Gaming. And they said, hey, you want to go to this, like these tournaments. And one was in Canada, and then the one after that was out of the country completely. It was in Amsterdam. And those were my first 2 tournaments with them.
Wow.
And so I'm signed to a whole new team, right? Me still thinking that, oh yeah, I'm going to still be an illustrator full time. And I think once I, yet again, same thing, but I established as a pro player for them at this point because I'm signed with them. And I said, if they're seeing me this way, there's something that they see. They've obviously been scouting me for a while then. And so I'm like, maybe I should be considering myself and like holding myself to this standard as well, because I take it so seriously. It's been in my life for like years, competing and all that comes with it. So when I went to Canada Cup, I got 4th there. When I went to Amsterdam, I got 4th there. And that was a last chance qualifier against tons of international competition. And that blew me up, actually. Oh my God. Yeah, actually that blew me up. And it it showed what I was capable of doing on a wider scale in terms of competition. Showed more American players. It showed, women, pro female players, what we're capable of. It's always nice to see because sometimes we're rare in certain spaces. And just, my own personality, my own play style, and the way I pilot my character. So yeah, that I think those couple of instances were true determining factors in when it switched from hobby to pro.
Awesome. And you mentioned kind of being a woman in the space, and in the FGC particular, as more one-on-one play, I've always kind of noticed that there is a bit more like I see more women competing in fighting games than I do in probably most other sports. Correct me if I'm wrong. In other esports, I should say. So how did that help shape you, being kind of always in these co-ed competitions on a main stage, where I think in other esports, there's still kind of that separation by gender in most cases, not all, but I know traditionally speaking. So how did that help shape you? And do you think that other esports could learn from the FGC in that respect?
So I've always been in like 99% of the time I've been in co-ed tournaments, and I never saw it any other way because that was kind of just like what was around me, right? So I prefer it that way personally, but that's also because my experiences were positive ones when I entered the scene. So it didn't make going into co-ed tournaments feel intimidating or anything like that. I was there to learn, and I was gonna learn. Dug my heels in, and when I need to ask a question, I would. But I also think it was because of how welcoming the community was, and because of that, it kind of, I didn't feel uncomfortable with signing up and this stuff. But also at the same time, I was aware that gaming can be male dominated at times, depending on the realm. So I mean, because of that, I was like, there's that, but I still want to learn. And I was getting a good vibe from my community. So I signed up for tournaments. I asked questions, went to meetups where we would all play offline. We all learned from each other, and I was respected as a peer, as like someone they could learn from as well, and vice versa. They didn't see my gender. But unfortunately, that isn't the case for all women who enter the scene. Some of their communities don't allow them to really do that. The first thing they see is their gender. And because of that, they're treated differently. The comments that are said to them, like they're met with hostility before they even want to, ask a question or compete. So when that happens, they want to find those safe spaces, those places where they know that like they can learn comfortably without the constant judgment and criticism for simply being a woman, which does happen. So it depends on the community, truthfully, and one's first experiences when coming in. And sometimes, even with all that, people can still learn in co-ed environments, but it does make it harder to learn. And for me personally, it can make things hard to learn when people are, when you're met with all this hostility. It's so healthy to learn in a good environment, an environment that's there to uplift you. It's positive. It's a positive learning experience. Now, I do think with other like esports, and the fact that they do like the gender separate like tournaments and things like that. I mean, I don't know what that's like because I've never had to have to do that. And I personally wouldn't want to. It's not really my thing. I want to compete where all the competition is so I can get all those experiences. That's just personally me. And, if the majority happens to be male, then okay, cool. And maybe I'll play in like a female tournament here and there. But like, no, I want to like play where, there's the biggest concentration of like all that talent in one space. I want to get as much experience as I can.
Move Makers is made possible by Paidia Gaming. Paidia empowers women and allies of all genders to safely connect, learn, and play. When you join Paidia, you're unlocking access to an inclusive and kind gaming community, tournaments from your favorite content creators and competitors, along with exclusive content aimed at taking your gaming skills to the next level. Make sure you head over to paidiagaming.com today to sign up and follow along on social media at Paidia Gaming. correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I read somewhere recently that you started playing Tekken with your dad. Is that correct? And
Yes.
so, in playing Tekken with your dad, do you think, and just your family in general, like with a parent, do you think having that kind of support also kind of helped maybe bridge, let's say, an equity gap that maybe some women might face whenever it comes to having access to competitive play at an age where, let's say, boys traditionally get that access or get that encouragement? Is I'm just really curious if you think that maybe played a big part in your interest and your growth as a pro player.
Hmm. Well, I always kind of think like my dad never really babied me, when we played.
Hmm.
Of course I was always like, his little girl, but like, when we were competing, it was very much so like, well, don't cry, train, practice,
Hmm.
get better. There's no point in crying, about anything. We could use that energy getting better and studying things. So, as a kid, you kind of just go through the move list. You don't really have direction when it comes to that, but you go through the move list. You look at combos. You start to look at the structure of the game, the
Hmm.
mechanics a little bit, and I think that just kind of stuck with me. It made me competitive. So every time I played him, I want to beat him. Um, and my dad never said, well, gaming is usually what boys do. So
Hmm.
yeah, and a lot of people, their parents were just like, hey, play some games.
Yeah.
Like if they saw their kids play games, they help support the hobby by buying games for their kids.
Hmm.
And thankfully, my dad wasn't like, well, this is what he never just this is what girls do or this is what boys do. No, it was very much so like, yeah, I played with dolls, but at the same time, I also played video games
Hmm.
like crazy. Um, you can have both, but my parents were always very like neutral when it came to those kinds of things. It wasn't like the societal norms for gender didn't play a role in my house when it came to that. And I'm glad because I wouldn't be in this career that I'm in if that were the case.
Hmm. I have this perspective. I have no fact or data. It's just like a thought that I've like pondered myself about thinking how, you know, as millennials become parents, we're going to see, I think, more of an even kind of playing field among genders as like I'd say 10 to 20 years from now, because millennial parents are gamers. Whereas, whenever I was a kid, I had a Sega Genesis. And I was never discouraged from playing because I was a girl, but more of like computer time, like playtime. Like it was like get outside. That was always
Yes,
like my
same.
parents' thing. It was like just you played too long, get outside. And unfortunately for me, there isn't a league for the Sega Disney series because that was like all I played as a kid. But so I do think that there's going to be this kind of like shift and evolution of, let's say, future generations, because the equity gap is, I think, going to narrow as more parents, as gamers, play with their kids regardless of their gender. So I'm excited thinking about esports 10 to 20 years from now whenever it comes to having more women in the space. And I do think that there's value to programs and leagues for women who don't necessarily have the kind of access or support that you did, or other communities do to help get there. But I agree. I'm very excited for the day whenever we have just as many women playing on the main stage and in all esports. So I think that's something that I really look forward to, and we'll have to connect in 10 years to see if my theory's right.
Yes, yes.
Cool. All right. So as a pro player, and I know this is something that, again, as more young people kind of watch esports, consume video game content on platforms like Twitch and YouTube, we're going to have more and more people who want to actually pursue being a professional esports player, much like they would a professional ball player, right? So what kind of advice as a pro player now, well into your career, would you give someone listening who wants to be a pro player?
Mm. So the advice I would give to someone who's looking to be a pro player is like, don't make excuses. That's my biggest thing. Is my biggest pet peeve is when people make excuses for the things that they lose to. You can be upset that something happened, because there are some things in the game that are kind of ridiculous and you got to learn how to fight past them. Sure. But making excuses for everything will put band-aids on your problems, but you're not solving them. And in competitive gaming, it's about problem solving. And for fighting games, it's about problem solving. It's anything you compete in, it's about problem solving. What is the best strategy to defeat your opponent? It could be one strategy, two or three, but that changes as the round goes on, or or the set goes on. It's one piece of advice. Also, knowing your worth. Knowing your worth is very important, because people will try you. They will try to kind of like lowball you. And you don't want that. You want to understand what your brand, what the value of your brand is. It's very important. You have to respect yourself. Don't do certain things for free. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do some things for free. If they're close to your heart, you trust those orgs, or you trust that cause, whatever. Sure. I do it all the time, for those things that I really love. Sometimes it's not about the money, no. But if it's, it's your livelihood, there are going to be some opportunities where you're like, if you're not getting paid what you're worth, it is not worth your time. Because like I said, organizations, companies will try to use your work, use you for free. So that's like another big thing, knowing your worth. Also, I guess I'll say like the last piece of advice is go at your own pace in terms of success. And everybody's path is different. So what you're going to do to get to a certain accomplishment or goal will be different than the next person and the other person. Comparing yourself can, I think, be harmful to a degree. If you're comparing, you have two people, you're doing something in the same realm as them. You're seeing that they're getting certain opportunities. Comparing yourself could actually be kind of detrimental to, your growth. Maybe just see it, maybe ask them, hey, how did you do this? How did you do that? Study them, learn from them, turn it into like a learning lesson more than anything. There are so many people that are like influencers, and we're not kind of in the same like profession, but we're in the same industry. So I kind of learn like how to handle certain things or how to approach certain deals because I read their tweets, like their advice that they give on Twitter. Social media can be a beautiful tool when used correctly. And so many of these things my manager taught me. I'd also say, if you have a manager or you don't, get one because they will help you in your day-to-day ongoings of, getting approached for deals and, seeing what the best fit is for you and how to negotiate. What's your rates per hour? And there's just so many things, and they can teach you so much. My manager, Emily, does it for me all the time. She's taught me so much. And advocate for yourself because, gotta be your biggest fan. Anyway, that is my advice though. Yes.
That's a lot of really good advice. And I think something that is, to me, that points out or stands out, I should say, is that so many things that you said, I think are characteristics of a really strong business person, which, a lot of people don't necessarily think of or may not come to mind whenever it comes to being, a professional athlete, player in any field. So talk to me a little bit about that. When did you start? Did you always have a business kind of mindset, or is that something that you kind of learned along the way?
The business mindset is something I learned along the way. Because the gaming industry is still kind of new in certain ways, especially esports. My manager really like when certain things would be sent to me through emails, like opportunities or like certain like panels or public speaking opportunities or like compensation sort of, I talked to her because I didn't know about some of this stuff. So the more exposure I got, the more the more I became known in my space. People are approaching you for things. You're like, I have never had to like think or consider an hourly rate, or is this amount good for what I'm giving to them in terms of work output? Like, we need to talk. So she always just accessible, right? Like I could talk to her and she would give me her honest opinion because she used to work for another esports team. She used to work on Echo Fox, and she's been in the gaming industry for a while, like a long time. And she's a businesswoman. So because she's a businesswoman, she showed me the ropes. And so it's rubbed off on me. I'm always honest with her. I'm very transparent when when something doesn't feel right, or like if a certain proposal doesn't like, hit me a certain way, or I feel like there's red flags, I talk to her, and she always like tells me like, if something doesn't feel right, trust your gut and let's talk. And then we outweigh like we talk about the pros and cons, which one outweighs the other. And since we've been doing this together for like 3 or 4 years, I now can do so much of this on my own. But I hear her in my head.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad I have a female manager, because some of the things that I still experience, are based on my gender. And she understands those things, So she teaches me in one way about business, but she's also able to, help me and be like my mental guide.
I think the most important thing, besides your gut being your best friend, always listen to your gut. I'm a big proponent of that too, is to surround yourself with people you trust and who want to see you succeed. And a lot of times that is hard to find. So it sounds like you have a great mentor in Emily, and I'm really excited, and happy for you for that.
Yes, I consider Emily my mentor, my manager slash agent, but also, a very close friend. She's all of those things to me, and we've been able to have a relationship where all those things coexist in the workplace. But whenever I need her, she's there, and we talk, and it's very mutual, like the way we rely on each other. And I always say, and if it wasn't for her, I would not be here. I spoke in a speech about Tim, people taking a chance on you, and she did, because I definitely thought about it at the time when they did sign me to Equinox. I was like, being a female, pro player, it's not always very common. Being a Black pro player, it's just, and getting that opportunity, I'm like, wow, especially for fighting games, you don't see it all the time. Or, in pro spaces in general, it's, it's getting better, but it's still sometimes kind of rare depending. And so I was like, I just want to feel comfortable on a team. That's all. So with her, I always felt like I was, always, because there's so many people on our team that come from different backgrounds as well, because those are the types of people they bring in, tons of different talent, ethnicities, gender, everything. It's versatile, so I never feel like the odd person out, which is so nice, and it allows me to do my job comfortably while still learning.
That's really important. I'm really, really happy to hear that. I've heard really great things about Emily. I hope I get to meet her one day. So
that's great. She's phenomenal.
Whenever we connected over email, you shared that physical and mental health is a big part of your kind of day-to-day. What role does physical and mental health really play in your professional career?
The role that physical and mental health plays in my professional career is knowing where to have that separation, that balance, because I'm not gonna lie, it's so easy to want to work a lot. I like being preoccupied with work. I love feeling productive, but also with being productive, you can overwork yourself, and at some point you're gonna get burnout, which means you can't give your all, your 110 to your career, because you're so burnt on the things that you're supposed to be loving. So that's when mental health comes in, and understanding when it's important to approach that self-care, that self-love, and when to no, okay, this is the weekend, I need to chill. Don't look at an email, don't read an email. It's setting the boundaries, and when it's time to stop. When does the work clock stop? And when you are your own boss, you're self-employed, which is definitely what I am to an extent. It's mental health and physical health become a necessity, because there's not a clock telling you, or a company telling you, hey, this is when you stop working. You have to do that for yourself. So scheduling is important, taking vacations is important. It is crucial to my professional career. I have to have the balance, or else I won't be able to do my career or my profession efficiently at all.
Did you ever reach a point of burnout that you learned from, or has this always been something that you've had a strong kind of mental stance on?
Yes, I did reach a point of burnout, but it was more so physically it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was playing or streaming for a bit too long, and I knew it was a problem the moment I went to go lay down, because like the eye strain was there. So I went to go lay down after probably like maybe 7, 8 hours of playing. I closed my eyes, and it's almost like I could not get to that state of sleep where you're literally like you're out, like you don't even remember what happened, like you're out, like eyes are closed, your brain shuts off, you're asleep. I couldn't do it. My eyes were too dry. They were too strained for me to get efficient sleep because of how long I was staring at that screen. And it was not just one day, it was multiple days of that. And I was like, in all this training that I'm trying to do, maybe I need to also know when like it's good to play and, when to stop. It has been years since I've done that. I play like 2 or 3 hours and that's it. Now, I will give myself a little leeway. I streamed Resident Evil 7 on the weekend. Love that game. It's amazing. Wow. Play 7 hours. That's not the same thing. It's a completely different game. That doesn't count. But when you're so hyper focused when you're training, masses of hours can pass and you not notice. So knowing that, having that good balance, knowing when to stop, it happened to me more than once after that too. And I was like, yeah, I need to fix something. So ever since then, I play like maybe 2 or 3 hours, maybe 4. I don't stream all the time now. I don't believe in streaming all the time because given what I'm doing with my profession, I sometimes need a little step away. Some people can stream a lot more. That's fine. Me, I need a little time away. And I don't always want to stream my practice. I want to kind of just be able to do it with my coach or like do, play with another friend and just absorb that way. Cause I can't tackle chat and talk to chat and also play at the same time all the time. And I'm going to say like, it's okay if I can't all the time. I can't be everything to everyone all the time. I got to be that for myself. So yeah.
Well, I know a lot of people listening will be able to relate to that because I know I can. I'm so guilty of falling into old habits of like doing all the things because we're very similar. Like I like to work. It's weird, but I get it. Like I love to work, and but I've also reached these points of burnout where I'm realizing like I've just taken on too much. So this has been like a big kind of self care project for me the last several months, is taking on things that bring me joy, but then understanding that things that bring me joy, like even organizing this podcast, take a lot of work and time. So like making sure that I'm still allotting time for rest, for reading, for family, because that is something that I can really easily fall into, like back into bad habits, I should say. But I know a lot of people listening can probably really relate to that. For you, is there anything else for mental health that you do beyond kind of just setting boundaries? Like, do you meditate? Do you, is there anything like that you do as well that really kind of helps get you mentally strong for competition?
Yes. So for like mental health and kind of preparing myself for competition, I have kind of visited the world of like meditation. I would like to do it a bit more, but when I do, it feels so good. I feel like, especially the meditation videos for competitors, I love those. YouTube is a great tool for those. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's 7 or 10, but like allotting that time, whenever I allotted that time to really just be and listen to the video, and they talk about like, say this, like I am, and then say I am in your name, or like you say I'm ready for this day, I've done the work, like you're saying those things outwardly, and you're like, if I I'm saying them, that's it, it's true, because I've done all the work, I'm prepared, this is me. And because of those things, like it just kind of reminds you, it's so easy to kind of forget those things when it's so easy to criticize yourself. You live with yourself every day, and like from your perspective, you could be like, oh my God, like how did I lose that? Oh my God, I should have been on point with doing this in this match or this round. But then like, if you just literally step outside yourself and you look at all the things that you do and all the things you accomplish, a lot of people like see how much, like, or like the accomplishment, you know, you could be hard on yourself, but like if everybody else can see those things and how great you've done, or like, you know, how good you did, even though you might have like, you know, not have reached a certain, you know, milestone in this tournament, or, you know, whatever it is, like, you know, if they can do that, like you should be able to look inside yourself and see like all the things that you've done or that you've accomplished. It could have been something small, but telling yourself that you appreciate the things that you do, or like, you know, the fact that like you do the work, you prepare, you train, you're good at what you do, it makes you feel so good. It makes you feel so good, because like I said, it's so easy to continue to criticize yourself in a realm where like that's all that's done, because like you're a competitor, you're a pro. God, you win, you're getting criticized. You lose, you're getting criticized. And I don't listen to any of that. I tune out all that. I don't even look for
Good
that
for
stuff.
you.
I just play. And the person I want to criticize me is my training partner and my coach. Those are the only people, like, you know, and my teammate. Like, those are the only people I would have do that anyway, because they play the game and they're genuinely just like, hey, you know, maybe you could have done that better because I asked, or like because we're watching together. But because we're all doing it. Those are the only people I would want anyway to criticize me, because they know what the game's about, you know, and they're in my, you know, and they're in my space.
Right.
So yeah.
You make such a good point, because I wonder what the like reasoning or why as human beings we're so like prone to have a negative voice inside of our head all the time. You know, even if we're doing something great and we know we're doing something great, there's always that voice telling us what we could have done differently. Or it always kind of like, for me, like I know I'm the worst at anticipating the worst. Like that's like part of my survivor toolkit too, I feel. But I also know that there are times when I should just really be in the moment and celebrating. And it's not easy. It's not. It takes retraining.
It's really hard to be in the moment. That is something that I'm still learning about all the time. Because, you know, like I think what you said earlier though, with like, you know, some of us having that habit to want to work. So like, even if when we accomplish something phenomenal, it's an amazing feat, we're still like, man, you know, what's the next thing I can do to do even better? Perfection. But I read something once, and I'm totally botching this, but it said like, you know, perfection is kind of hard to achieve. Nobody's perfect, but excellence is totally doable. You know, it doesn't mean there's not going to be like some mistakes, but like excellence, you know, is like knowing that you have flaws, but still knowing that you can accomplish anything, and appreciating yourself for those things.
And I like that you talked earlier about your meditation with like, it sounded like there was moments of manifestation too, right? I'm a big believer in manifestation. I manifest a lot of things in my life. And so I think that's something that's really valuable if you're able to, even if it's just like 10 minutes of silencing the negative talk and just manifesting out loud what it is you want from your life, or the outcome that you like want to pursue or that you want to make happen, I really think is just healthy practice and something that a lot of people could value from.
Yeah, I agree. Manifesting by speaking outward, like, you know, what it is you want, or, you know, what it is that you already do that you know you do well, and confirming those things for you. You might, you know, you might end up getting a few tears, and that's good too. You know, let that out. Be proud of yourself. It's really easy to be hard on yourself because you live with yourself every day. You know, we want to be the best versions of ourselves, especially when we're taught that, like, you know, excellence is the only option, you know, especially growing up, if that's, oh my God. But you know, be kind to yourself, be, you know, gracious, be good to yourself. Manifest. I believe it on Twitter all the time. I see like it, manifest. I'm manifesting this, and then they type it out, and I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's great. How do you think how do you bring this kind of, I guess, spirit or, you know, the spirit of positivity, this prioritizing mental health, like how do you bring that to your partnerships with organizations like Paidia and Red Bull? Do you see that as kind of like opportunity to reach more people through those platforms, or how do you bring, I guess, your unique perspective as a competitor to your partnerships?
So my perspectives on mental health, what value that brings to like places like Red Bull and Paidia, I really feel like sometimes it's not talked about enough. But I'm a pro player, and as a person, I'm very like open. Not about like all the things in my life, but like when it comes to like the experiences I have in these spaces, I don't sugarcoat them. And I think sometimes people are just a little timid on talking about them because they're not sure how it'll be received. Well, that's okay. I'll say it first. That's fine. If that'll make you feel more comfortable, that's cool. I've been here, I've done that, and people aren't alone. Somebody encouraged me by literally just when people say certain things like about the experiences, I'm like, it feels so good to know like it's not like just me, because sometimes it feels like really easy to like feel alone in something because you don't talk to anybody about the things you feel, especially in your profession, right? Say if you're like the only like woman or like one of the few women in a space, and you're like, you're doing your job well, you love what you're doing, but like you're like one of the only people that look like you there at a place, and sometimes your experiences are very different than somebody else's. So like the way you maneuvered the space will be different. But like there's a lot of people who can learn from that. So with that and my take on mental health and just how I approach those things because of my experiences, I feel like it helps people to understand like it's not just them. You're not alone. And there are some suggestions, some ways that can help, some things you can try and test that can help you to be the best version of yourself from any background you come from. This can help because we're all like, so many of us are in the same like professions. Sometimes you just need a little guidance, a little help. Sometimes like reading or listening to somebody's experience, it makes you feel like motivated, encouraged that like this will pass. And as long as, you solve it in a healthy way and, get that help that you need, however that looks, you can do anything. But that's what I really feel like I'll be providing is like that sort of insight into the realm of a pro player who really like got a therapist because my mental health mattered that much to me. And not just that, I got a coach, which also approaches another type of like very like positive, like pro player health that's important. Somebody who's like, yeah, that's fine. You didn't knock out that player, or you lost to something that you didn't want to lose to. We're gonna work on that. It's encouraging, it's healthy. And yet again, no, like there's so many people that don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. And I like to talk about those things because I want players who are coming up like to know like these resources can be accessible to you. And it's a lot more accessible now. Like we have people getting coached left and right now, and I love it. I love it. My teammate is a whole coach as well as like an amazing pro player, and I love him to death. He helps people, and he gets paid for his time, which as he should. So like I love that people are more aware of how healthy coaching is because people are talking about it, and also getting mental health therapy, or talking about it. And that happens because people talk about it. You gotta talk about it, or these things will not get fixed or solved, and people will just think that people become pro players and fight all these mental hurdles out of like just out of thin air, when it doesn't happen like that. We go through things every time we play or we deal with something on or off that stage. And that's really what I think.
I love I'm I can only imagine the pressure that comes with being a competitor, especially at the scale that you are. I'm not a very competitive person. I think some people who know me might like tilt their head whenever I'm not. Like I do not care about winning or losing. I like to win, but I just like to have fun in the process. But I do think something else that you said too about saying things that are typically kept quiet, right? I think especially as women, a lot of times if like we hear a conversation happening in the room or around us that we know isn't quite right or that we don't agree with, I think a lot of times we've been like, if we just stay quiet, we know how we feel, and we'll kind of move on. And that's just the way it is, right? And I'm so I'm notorious for saying things that everyone else is thinking, but no one's saying. So I'm really happy like talking to you and hearing that you have similar kind of like values like instilled in you, because it's so important. Because I can't tell you how many people just in my life have reached out to be like, I'm so glad that you said something. I've been wanting to say this. And I'm hopeful that seeing people like you on the platforms and with your influence and your reach as you continue to grow are going to be further inspired by that, because it's so incredibly important that we don't let things that have always been continue to be whenever we know that change is necessary. So please continue to use your voice.
Yeah, I they always say like closed mouths never get fed, and that's so true. And I just feel like you said, as women, sometimes when things happen, they happen and we're like, okay, and then we kind of just don't say anything. It's internalized, right? But at some point, like we have to kind of speak about these things if we want something to be done, be the change, but that's the thing, like it takes time to kind of get comfortable in your own skin enough to like speak up, because there's at one point I was really just like, I'm just gonna you just not say anything. But at some point I think you don't want to become complacent with the norm, because sometimes the norm doesn't mean it's okay, it doesn't mean it's good. So talking about certain things like mental health are really important, because as pros and people in everyday life, we have so many things that we deal with, big and small, and everybody deserves to get help, therapy. You don't want to be left alone with your thoughts all the time.
No. I think there's some people close to me throughout my life who, anytime I'm like, who are you talking to? Are you talking to someone like, you're going, and it's like, oh, I don't need that. It's like a weakness, or it's like, it's an admission of there's being something wrong. But to me, I like to think of the brain as like a muscle that needs to be treated and cared for and nourished, just like my body, just like my diet, just like everything else. Like if my mind isn't strong, how can I expect to achieve all of the wonderful things that I'm manifesting for my life, right? So for me, I think it's part of like general health to do whether it's, having a therapist or someone that a coach that you can like kind of like lean into, or it's meditating, or it's, yoga retreats or something just to help kind of strengthen your mind. I think that is something that should be prioritized just as much as any other physical health.
Yeah, I agree. It definitely should be prioritized. It's necessary, I think, for us to continue to grow as human beings as well, because just because we hit a certain age, or that we stop growing and learning, humans are always evolving. Like your life doesn't just stay the same. Change happens all the time, and with that, sometimes we need a little bit of help. Because it's so easy to be comfortable with habit, and when things start changing and things start adjusting in your life, it's so important to be able to reach out and be able to talk to somebody. I always feel like the moment you start internalizing a lot of things, stress kills. You don't want that. You don't.
Yes, stress is my nemesis and my best friend, it feels like it sometimes.
Likewise. Oh my gosh.
And then as we start to kind of wrap up our interview, I've so enjoyed our conversation again. Where can people find you, and what's your next move?
Oh, people can find me on Twitter with the @Cuddle _Core, on Twitch under the same thing, Cuddle _Core, Instagram TK, like it's in Tekken _Cuddle. So my next move is, honestly, I'm getting adjusted to the Red Bull life. That has been the biggest thing. My God, love it. But also there's tournaments coming up. We're going back offline again, and that is going to be an adjustment for me, because I'm an introvert. But before the pandemic was a thing, I still went to tournaments like once every month, and I had my fill of people, and I went back home and I was fine, but I got to see them all the time. So going from like not really seeing any of my friends from out of state, like to and not being around massive crowds to being put back into that will be an adjustment. So that's going to be another big move for me. But I'm really excited for all of that. And also just the other opportunities I'm getting and being able to branch out even more, expanding my brand, using my brand to help influence my community, doing a bit more work with charities, hopefully, but definitely like very much so like with a concentration of offline competing, because I have like 3 tournaments coming up and just want to be on my game. I want to be on that. And I'm really excited because all the training I've done the past 2 years in this pandemic, like I've been training and I'm proud of myself because I've been doing great. You know, have so many like amazing placements and some first place finishes. I love it. But now it's time to translate to offline, and let's see what I've got. And you know, I have my coach with me, and my manager, and this is what I wanted, and this is where we are. I just gotta. It's even like kind of embracing that confidence as well offline, because I'm also not just in the comfort of my room anymore. And being around a lot of people, given everything that's happened, is a little overwhelming for me. So kind of fighting those hurdles as well. Big moves, exciting things, a little scared, a little nervous, but overall, I'm a pro player, man. We adjust to everything. So I'm excited. I'm excited for it. But I'm going to be kind to myself and good to myself, and not overwork myself so that I can perform to the best level that I can at these tournaments, because I really want to show up and show out.
That's great. I'm very excited for you. We'll definitely be following along and rooting for you. So congratulations on all of your accomplishments. Again, congrats on Red Bull. So excited to have had the conversation with you today, and just can't wait to see what the future holds for you.
I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate the conversation that we've had here, because I think sometimes we don't really get to the other layers of like what it takes to be pro, or what it takes to be a professional, anything in these spaces. But what also needs to be taken care of, like mental and physical health, are so essential. But yeah, I really enjoy talking about all of this, because you know, sometimes maybe people are afraid to talk about some of these things, but we're having this dialogue here, and maybe they feel a little more comfortable in that in their experiences, they're not alone. So thank you so much for having me today.
I want to thank Janelle for sharing her story with us today. She has such a natural determination and confidence to her personality that is so admirable. Yes, as a professional player competing at the highest level, but also as a woman in any field hustling to be her very best. Now, I know we touched on this in our conversation, but it was truly so refreshing to have a conversation with someone who so eloquently and matter-of-factly could speak to their own success. I had the opportunity to speak with some of the most accomplished and aspirational women in this industry, and it continues to surprise me how many downplay their own achievements. And now I hope listening to Cuddle Core speak to her accomplishments and her future goals the way that she did inspires you to get out there and do the same about your own. I hope I see more women, yes, everyone really, but especially women, celebrating their accomplishments and encouraging others to do the same. I want to thank Janelle again for being our guest today. I will be rooting for you in all of your upcoming competitions. Now, everyone else, make sure you get out there and make your move.